The first words my alpha says to me as his husband are cold enough to freeze my bones. Do not expect anything from me. Damian Blackwood doesn't spare me a glance as he speaks. His voice is low, steady, and cutting, just loud enough for me to hear but quiet enough that no one else notices. Around us, the elders continue their droning speeches, praising our union as if it is anything more than a contract written in bloodlines. I stand beside him, my hands folded neatly in front of me, my shoulders squared. My father drilled it into me to never slouch, never fidget, never show a single sign of weakness. The perfect Omega does not tremble on his wedding day, even if his alpha refuses to touch him. A cup of ceremonial wine is placed in my hands. I lift it to my lips, the bitter taste burning its way down my throat. Damian does the same, though his movements are mechanical, his expression carved from stone. The bond is sealed. The Black Wolf tribe elders cheer. Their voices echo through the hall, rising in celebration. I lower my gaze, swallowing against the hollow ache in my chest. I knew this would not be a love match, but still I had hoped. A single word of acknowledgement. A look, a moment where I was not just a pawn. But Damian sets his cup down without a word, without even a glance in my direction, and turns away. I stand alone in a room full of people. Tonight, I will sleep in my alpha's home, but I have never felt further from belonging. If silence could kill, my home would be my grave. The Blackwood estate is vast, built of dark stone and towering walls that swallow what little light dares to enter. Servants move like shadows, their eyes carefully averted, their steps soundless. The halls stretch endlessly, cold and unwelcoming, much like the man who rules them. My husband, my alpha, Damian has not spoken to me since the wedding. The first morning, I woke early to prepare his tea. I had asked a servant what he preferred, spiced with just a hint of honey. I carried the tray to his study myself, carefully placing the cup on his desk before stepping back. He didn't even look up. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. The tea cooled. My hands clenched at my sides, nails biting into my palms as the weight of my own foolishness settled over me. He wasn't ignoring me to be cruel. He simply didn't care enough to acknowledge my presence at all. So I turned and left. The next day I tried again. And the next. And the next. Each time the same result. At meals, I sat quietly by his side while he discussed matters of the tribe with his beta commanders. I offered to assist in council affairs, only to be dismissed before I could finish speaking. I left notes in his study, attempting to bridge the chasm between us, but they remained untouched, gathering dust like the hope I was too stubborn to let go of. It is not just Damian. The Black Wolf tribe regards me with polite indifference. I am respected in name only, an Omega of noble lineage, bonded to their leader, but I hold no true place here. No one meets my eyes for long. No one asks if I am well. The worst part? No one is cruel. I almost wish they were. At least then I would feel something other than this slow, suffocating erosion of my existence. I am not hated. I am not loved. I am simply nothing. And yet, I still find myself waiting. For what? A moment of warmth? A single word? A shift in his gaze that says I am not just an obligation? Foolish. The realization settles heavily in my chest as I walk through the empty corridors of a house that will never be a home. If I vanish tomorrow, I wonder if anyone would even notice. Love exists in this house. It just wasn't meant for me. I hear it first in passing. A quiet name, spoken too softly, but with a warmth I have never been given. Eleanor. It lingers in my mind, unshakable. A name I do not know, but one that I will come to understand far too well. The confirmation comes late one evening. The estate is quiet, servants long since retired. I do not mean to linger outside Damian's study, but the sound of voices, his voice, stops me. You shouldn't be here. His tone is lower than usual, softer. A quiet reprimand, but not a true scolding. And yet I am, comes the reply. A woman's voice. Rich, amused, entirely at ease in a way I have never been around him. I press closer. You're reckless. Damian sighs. But there is something almost fond in the words. You love that about me, she teases, and I hear the faint sound of laughter, a sound I have never drawn from him. My fingers curl against the doorframe. I should leave. This conversation is not meant for me. But I stay. Does he suspect? She asks. I do not hear Damien's response, only the heavy silence that follows. That silence tells me everything. I have spent weeks trying to please a man who never once considered me his. While I waited for even a scrap of kindness, his heart belonged elsewhere. To her. I step away from the door, my breath unsteady, my chest tight. The reality of it crashes over me, swift and merciless. Damien was never indifferent. He was simply waiting. Waiting for the moment he no longer had to pretend I mattered at all. I knew it. I knew it before tonight, before this gathering, before I stood in this grand hall, surrounded by the elders of both tribes, my hands clasped so tightly together that my nails bite into my palms. I knew it in the quiet moments, in the untouched cups of tea, in the weight of a name that wasn't mine slipping from my husband's lips. But knowledge does not soften the blow. Damien stands before the assembled council, his stance rigid, his expression unreadable. Beside him, Eleanor is a vision of quiet defiance. The air between them hums with something undeniable, a connection I have never shared with him. The whispers start softly, like the first flurries of a winter storm. A question from an elder, a murmured confirmation, and then, like a dam breaking, the full truth spills into the open. You are already engaged to another? One of the elders demands. Damien does not deny it. He does not look at me. Asher is my legal spouse, he says, and for one brief, foolish second I think maybe, just maybe, he will claim me. But he was never my choice. The words land like a blade to the chest. A murmur ripples through the room, but no one rushes to my defense. Not the Black Wolf elders, who see me as nothing more than a failed bargain. Not my father, who remains silent beside them. Damien exhales sharply, as if this entire situation is an inconvenience rather than a betrayal. I need an Omega worthy of me, not one who is worthless. The room falls deathly silent. The floor tilts beneath me. For a moment, I feel as though I am falling, plummeting into an abyss I will never crawl out of. Worthless. The word clings to my skin like frostbite, burrowing deep, seeking out every crack, every fragile piece of me that has spent a lifetime trying to be enough. I force my head high. I will not crumble here, not before these people who have already deemed me unworthy. I turn to my father. He does not meet my eyes. There is no protest, no outrage, only silence. And in that silence, my fate is decided. I am no longer a spouse. I am no longer nobility. I am nothing. The gates close behind me with a final, resounding thud. I don't turn back. The Black Wolf tribe has already made their stance clear. There was no trial, no deliberation, just a verdict delivered by my alpha in front of the entire council. Worthless. The word still rings in my ears, a cruel echo that will not fade. Snow crunches beneath my boots as I step forward, further into the wilderness that stretches beyond the tribe's walls. The cold bites instantly, seeping through the thin fabric of my ceremonial robes. No one let me gather supplies. No one cared if I had food, warmth, a way to survive. They didn't exile me. They sentenced me. The wind howls through the barren trees, sharp and unforgiving. I press forward, arms wrapped tightly around myself, but every step feels heavier than the last. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if I'm going anywhere at all. By the time night falls, my body is trembling violently. My fingers are stiff, numb, my lips cracked and dry. I try to keep walking, but my legs buckle, sending me crashing to my knees in the snow. I should be afraid, but there is no fear left in me, only exhaustion. I stare at the sky, at the endless expanse of stars above me, and wonder if this was always how it was meant to end. Not in a battle, not in fury or defiance, just fading away quietly, unseen. A fitting fate for an Omega no one wanted. The cold creeps higher, curling around my ribs, pressing into my lungs. My vision blurs, darkness pressing in at the edges. I let my eyes drift shut, my body too tired to fight anymore. Let it be quick. Let it be quiet. Just let it. A shadow moves. A crunch of snow. The warmth of a hand pressing against my cheek, rough and calloused. A voice, deep and steady, cutting through the haze. You're not dying today, Omega. Then darkness. Warmth is the first thing I notice. A stark contrast to the biting cold that had settled deep in my bones, wrapping around me like a shroud. My fingers twitch against something soft. Fur blankets, thick and heavy. A fire crackles nearby, the scent of burning wood filling the air. I am not dead. The realization is slow, my mind sluggish as I force my eyes open. A wooden ceiling greets me, beams rough-hewn and sturdy. This is not the Black Wolf tribe. I shift, and pain flares down my limbs, dull and aching. A groan escapes before I can stop it. You're awake. The voice is deep, steady. I turn my head, blinking until my vision clears. A man sits in the corner of the room, watching me with unreadable eyes. An alpha. His presence is commanding but not suffocating. His frame broad and powerful. He wears a cloak lined with thick furs, and his posture is relaxed, but there's an alertness in the way he studies me. Where? My throat is raw, my voice barely more than a whisper. White Wolf territory. He doesn't move, but something in his gaze shifts. An assessment. You nearly froze to death. White Wolf tribe. The name stirs something faint in my memory. A tribe unlike the others. One where Omegas were not bound by the same rules, where hierarchy did not dictate worth. A place of outcasts and warriors. I swallow, my body still weak. Why? Why did I save you? The alpha leans forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees. Because I don't leave people to die in the snow. Even Omegas cast aside by their own. There's no pity in his voice. No mockery. Just fact. I don't know how to respond. No alpha has ever looked at me without expectation, without some claim, some ownership in their gaze. But this one, what's your name? He asks. I hesitate. My name meant something once. Aloran, a noble Omega, a Blackwood spouse. But now, I press my lips together. Then quietly I answer, Asher. The alpha nods as if weighing the name, then simply says, Cyrus Whitmore, alpha of the White Wolf tribe. The fire crackles between us. He does not offer reassurances, does not tell me I am safe now, or that things will be all right. Instead, he watches me for a long moment before speaking again. You have two choices, Omega. His voice is calm, but there's something unshakable beneath it. Lie here and fade, or get up and decide what your life is worth. His words settle in my chest, a challenge and an offering both. I do not answer, not yet, because for the first time since I was cast out, the choice is mine. My body is weak, but my hands refuse to be empty. Days pass in a slow, steady rhythm. My strength returns in fragments. First the ability to sit up without my head spinning, then to stand without my legs trembling. I eat what is given to me, drink the herbal tonics pressed into my hands by quiet, efficient healers. The White Wolf tribe is nothing like the place I left behind. There are no looming stone walls, no rigid hierarchy that forces heads to bow in submission. The people here move with purpose, but not under fear. Betas speak to alphas without hesitation. Omegas walk freely, their eyes bright, their hands full, not with the burdens of pleasing someone else, but with the work they have chosen for themselves. It unsettles me. I have never lived in a world where I was not expected to serve. Cyrus visits often. Always brief, always direct. He does not smother, does not linger needlessly. But his words stay with me long after he is gone. If you want a life, Omega, you have to build it. First, I do not know how. What does an Omega with no husband, no name, no home do? One morning, I wander to the communal hall, drawn by the scent of freshly baked bread. Inside, the air is thick with warmth, steam rising from pots, voices weaving through the space in quiet conversation. The cook glances up at me, then nods toward a basket of herbs. If you're going to stand there, make yourself useful. I hesitate. No one has asked for my help before, not like this. Not because they demand it, but because they expect I can. My fingers curl around the cool stems of wild sage. I have not cooked in years, but the movements return easily. Stripping leaves, crushing them between my fingers to release the oils, sprinkling them into a simmering pot of stew, stirring slowly, the scent deepening with something rich and familiar. The cook tastes it, then nods in approval. Not bad, not praise, not flattery, just recognition. Something inside me stirs. A slow, fragile ember. I do not know who I am in this new place, but for the first time I think maybe I want to find out. They said I was worthless. Now, people line up for a taste of what I create. Steam rises from the sizzling pan in front of me, carrying the scent of roasted game and wild herbs through the air. The marketplace is alive with movement, voices calling, boots crunching against packed snow. Coins clink, trades are made, and laughter spills through the air in a way that once would have felt foreign to me. Now it is home. 2 years. 2 years since I was cast out with nothing. Since I woke up in the White Wolf tribe, weak and empty, unsure of where I belonged. Now I own something. Not through a name I inherited, not through a bond forced upon me, but through my own hands, my own work. Asher, another order. One of my workers calls. I move swiftly, plating the meal with practiced ease. A hunter from the northern clans sits eagerly at one of the wooden benches, watching as I slide the dish toward him. His first bite is tentative. Then his eyes widen, and he lets out a pleased grunt. By the gods, this is good. I nod, wiping my hands on a cloth before turning to the next customer. I recognize them, a trader from the Grey Wolf tribe, one of many who have started passing through these lands. My stall has become well known, a place where travelers stop not just to eat, but to experience something new. Once, I was an Omega who lived in silence. Now people call my name. Excuse me. A hesitant voice speaks. I glance up to find a young Omega standing before me, clutching a basket tightly in their hands. Their eyes dart nervously, their posture tense. One I recognize all too well. Are you really from the Black Wolf tribe? A beat of silence. I study them, noting the way their shoulders curl inward, the way they wait for an answer as if it might determine their future. I set down my knife. I say evenly, not anymore. The tension in their frame eases just slightly. I do not ask their story. They do not need to tell it. I already know, because 2 years ago I was them. I nod toward the open space behind my stall. If you're looking for work, I could use another set of hands. The Omega stares at me, shocked. Then slowly they nod. I would like that. Another ember, another spark. The Black Wolf tribe tried to break me. Now, their own Omegas seek refuge in the world I have built. I am no longer a discarded spouse, no longer a name attached to another's power. I am Asher Loron, and this time I belong to no one but myself. Cyrus doesn't push. He just stands near, steady as the ground beneath my feet. The marketplace has quieted. Most of the stalls have closed for the night, the hum of the day's business fading into the distant crackle of torches lining the walkways. I stand beside my stall, wiping down the wooden counter, the warmth from the evening's rush still lingering in my bones. I am not alone. Cyrus stands a few feet away, arms crossed, his steady gaze watching the last few traders pack up their carts. He doesn't speak. He never does unless there is something worth saying. But his presence is something I have come to expect. Constant. You should be resting, he says eventually. I huff a quiet laugh, shaking my head. So should you. He doesn't argue, just tilts his head slightly, the barest trace of amusement flickering in his sharp blue eyes. Silence stretches between us, but it is not empty. It is not the cold, aching silence I once knew in another life, in a home that never felt like mine. This silence is comfortable. It does not demand. It does not press. I saw you took in a new worker today, Cyrus finally says. I glance back toward the modest quarters behind my stall, where the young Omega is likely curled up, exhausted from their first real day of freedom. They remind me of myself. I admit, I couldn't turn them away. Cyrus nods as if he understands. And maybe he does. You're making a difference, Asher. The words settle in my chest. Unfamiliar but warm. Not flattery, not empty encouragement, just truth. I exhale, leaning against the counter. It doesn't feel that way sometimes. That's because you're always looking ahead. He turns his gaze to me now, quiet and unreadable. You never stop to see how far you've already come. I swallow, my throat suddenly tight. He is right, of course. I don't know how to stop moving, how to exist without feeling like I must constantly prove. What? That I deserve this? That I belong here? Cyrus doesn't push for an answer. He never does. Instead, he reaches for the small plate resting on my counter. A leftover pastry from earlier, dusted with honey and crushed almonds. He takes a bite, chews thoughtfully. Not bad, he says. I scoff. Not bad? People come from miles away for my cooking, and all you can say is not bad. MMM. His lips twitch, the closest thing to a smirk. I've had better. I narrow my eyes at him. He holds my gaze, unbothered, before taking another bite. The corners of my mouth tug upward before I can stop them. He doesn't compliment me, doesn't coddle, doesn't fill the space with empty words. But he is here, every night, every quiet moment, never asking for more than I am ready to give. I turn back to my stall, brushing my fingers over the worn wood. One day, I'll make something even you can't find fault with. Cyrus hums, setting the now empty plate down. Looking forward to it. He says nothing else, but he lingers a little longer before walking away. I watch him go, something settling deep in my chest. Something steady. Something I do not need to name, not yet, because he is here, and that is enough. An Omega should not lead, they whisper. But they still come to taste what I have built. The marketplace is busier than ever. The scent of roasted meat and simmering spices weaves through the crisp morning air, mingling with the calls of traders and the low murmur of conversation. My stall is no longer just a simple food stand. It has become something greater. A gathering place, a meeting point, a symbol. The first time I noticed it, I thought I was imagining things. But now it is undeniable. They are coming. Not just traders from the Grey Wolf tribe. Not just curious betas looking to sample something new. But Omegas. Omegas from the Black Wolf tribe. They arrive cautiously, their steps tentative, their gazes flicking around as if expecting someone to drag them back. Some still wear the modest, muted garments I remember all too well, clothes designed not to stand out, to blend into the background, to take up as little space as possible. They watch me, they whisper my name, and then, one by one, they start to stay. It is not just my food they seek. It is proof. Proof that an Omega can stand alone. Proof that there is something beyond the rigid walls of the Black Wolf tribe's traditions. I serve them meals with steady hands, never asking for their stories. I do not need to. I already know them. I heard you used to be one of us. One Omega murmurs one evening, lingering near my stall long after the rush has died down. Their voice is uncertain, as if they are not sure if speaking to me is allowed. I meet their gaze without hesitation. I was. They swallow. And now I am just Asher Loron. I pause, letting the words settle. No one else decides who I am anymore. Their throat bobs, and then, almost too softly to hear, I want that. A ripple. A crack in the old foundation of a world that tried to keep us in our place. It is not just Omegas who take notice. The merchants speak of me now, not as someone's spouse, not as a discarded name, but as a leader in my own right. The Omega cook from the White Wolf tribe, have you heard? He built himself from nothing, and now even alphas buy from him. They say he was once bonded to Damian Blackwood, but now he won't even speak his name. I should not matter this much. Not in a world where tradition dictates that Omegas do not lead, do not own, do not stand alone. But I do, and they cannot ignore it. The first time a beta from the Black Wolf tribe stops at my stall, I pretend not to notice the way his eyes dart nervously, as if he expects to be reprimanded for being here. The first time an alpha hesitates before approaching, his expression uncertain, I do not speak. Because they are the ones who crossed into my world. And whether they like it or not, my name carries weight now. Not because of my father. Not because of my former alpha. Because of me. Damian Blackwood, once so untouchable, now stands before me with nothing left to offer. The first time I see him again, it is not as my alpha. It is not as my husband. It is as a man with nothing. The marketplace is alive around me, filled with the steady rhythm of daily life. The calls of traders, the laughter of children, the scent of freshly baked bread curling through the cold air. I am busy, my hands deftly slicing herbs, preparing for the evening rush, when the world tilts. A shadow lingers at the edge of the crowd, a presence that prickles against my awareness in a way that I should no longer recognize. I do not look up right away. I do not need to. The murmurs begin before he even reaches my stall. That's him. What is he doing here? Blackwood looks different. I lift my gaze, and there he is. Damian Blackwood, the alpha who once stood above all others, now stands in the center of my world as an outsider. His once pristine black cloak is travel-worn, the fabric frayed at the edges. His face is thinner, the sharp planes of his cheekbones more prominent, dark circles carved beneath his eyes. His posture is still strong, still carrying the remnants of a man who once ruled without question. But he is not untouchable anymore. And he knows it. The crowd gives him a wide berth. They are waiting, watching. They know who he is. They know who I am. I set my knife down, wiping my hands on a cloth, and step around the counter of my stall. We face each other. The last time we stood like this, I had nothing but his rejection. Now he is the one with empty hands. Asher, Damian says, and his voice is not the same as I remember. Gone is the cold, unmovable steel. There is something else beneath it now, uncertainty. I say nothing. His throat bobs. He exhales sharply, then speaks again. I need you to come back. The words land like a stone dropped into still water. The marketplace, so full of life just moments ago, is silent. I stare at him. He does not look away. And this time I do not either. Why? My voice is quiet, but it does not waver. Something flickers in his expression. Something that might have once been pride, but is now brittle, fragile. Like a man standing on the edge of a crumbling cliff. Eleanor betrayed me. The words come bitter, grudging. She used me to secure her own standing in the Grey Wolf tribe, took our resources, took our alliances, and left. I do not flinch. I do not soften. The Black Wolf tribe is on the brink of collapse. He continues, jaw tight. We need. He hesitates, swallows. I need you. He has never said those words before. Not to me. Not like this. The great Damian Blackwood, the alpha who cast me aside without hesitation, now stands before me and asks. Not demands. Asks. And I feel nothing. Not the pain I expected. Not the anger. Not the quiet, aching hope that once would have burned so desperately inside me. I let the silence stretch between us, let him feel the weight of it, the emptiness of his own request. Then finally I answer. I'm sorry, Damian. My voice is soft, steady, unshaken. But I am no longer yours. I don't belong to anyone but myself. A flicker of something, shock, and then slowly defeat. For the first time in his life, Damian Blackwood has lost something he cannot take back. There was a time I would have given anything to hear those words. That time is dead. Damian stares at me, his mouth slightly open, as if he cannot quite believe what I have just said. For a long time, I dreamed of this moment, imagined him coming back, realizing what he lost, regretting it. I used to think that if he ever asked me to return, if he ever said he needed me, I would forgive him. But standing here now, watching the way his shoulders tense, the way his fingers curl slightly, I feel nothing. Asher. My name is a desperate thing on his tongue. But I do not flinch. I do not bow. Did you think I would come back? My voice is calm, steady in a way I never was with him before. That I would drop everything I built, everything I fought for, just because you finally decided I was worth something? A muscle in his jaw twitches. You don't understand, he says. The tribe cast me out. I tilt my head slightly. And you led them in doing so. His lips pressed together, frustration flickering behind his eyes. He is not used to being denied. You're still an Omega, Asher. He says it as if that should mean something, as if that should explain why I should still belong to him. I exhale, slow and measured. And yet, I say, gesturing to the bustling marketplace around us, I have built more than you ever allowed me to. There is a shift in the air. The people around us are still pretending not to listen, but I know they are. Alphas, betas, and omegas alike, all watching, waiting, because this is not just about me and Damien. This is about what an Omega is allowed to be. Look around you, Damien. My voice is soft, but it cuts through the space between us like a blade. You're standing in my world now. His nostrils flare. The weight of his own failure, of my success, settles heavy between us. For once, Damien Blackwood has no power here. I don't belong to anyone but myself. I repeat, the final nail in the coffin of what we once were. What we never truly were at all. The defeat in his stance is slow, reluctant, but absolute. Damien Blackwood came to reclaim me, and he leaves with nothing. As Damien fades into the past, a quiet presence remains beside me. The marketplace swallows him whole. Damien's figure disappears into the shifting crowd, his shoulders stiff, his pace quick. He does not look back. Neither do I. The world around me exhales, as if the tension that held it still has finally broken. The people return to their business, but not without a few lingering glances in my direction. I know what they are thinking. They just watched an Omega, one who was meant to be silent, obedient, disposable, reject the alpha who once ruled him. I breathe in, long and slow, willing the moment to settle in my bones. It is over. Truly, finally over. But even as the weight lifts from my chest, I feel it, the faintest tremor in my hands. Not from regret, not from doubt, from the sheer finality of it. You did well. The voice is low, familiar, steady as the ground beneath me. I do not startle when Cyrus steps into place beside me. I knew he was here. He has been watching, waiting, not to interfere, not to shield me, but to be here when it was done. He does not praise me. He does not ask if I am all right. He only stands there, solid and certain, as if he has always been meant to. I exhale, rolling my shoulders, trying to shake the last remnants of Damien's presence from my skin. It felt strange. My voice is quieter than I expect. Cyrus nods. Closure always does. I glance at him, expecting something more. Some reassurance, some validation that I made the right choice. But he does not give it, because he knows I do not need it. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, watching me with that same unreadable patience. Do you feel lighter? He asks. I do. I swallow. I think so. Cyrus hums, as if this answer is enough. Then, in a voice as steady as it has always been, he says, You were never worthless, Asher. His gaze does not waver. You were just in the wrong place. The words settle deep in my chest, threading through old wounds, soothing things I did not realize still ached. I look at him then, really look at him. For 2 years he has been here. Not pulling, not pushing, simply walking beside me. Not because I belonged to him. Not because he wanted to claim me. But because he wanted to see where I would go. I turn back to my stall, my hands steadier now as I pick up my knife. Come back later, I say, the corner of my mouth twitching. I'll make something worth your time. Cyrus huffs out a quiet laugh, the closest thing to a real smile I have ever seen from him. Looking forward to it, and just like that, he walks away. I watch him go, the warmth in my chest steady, unshaken. Damien was my past. Cyrus is not my future. I was given away, then thrown away. Now I choose myself. The morning air is crisp, carrying the scent of baked bread and roasted meats. the distant hum of traders setting up their stalls. The marketplace is alive, not just with commerce, but with change. Omegas stand behind their own stalls, exchanging coin with customers, their hands busy, not in service, but in creation. Betas walk freely among them, shoulders no longer lowered in quiet submission. Even alphas have changed. Some still hesitate when speaking to an omega who meets their gaze head-on. Others have already begun to unlearn what they were taught. The world is shifting, and at the center of it I walk, not as a beggar, not as a discarded spouse, but as its leader. My stall is already bustling with the morning crowd, but I do not rush to take my place behind the counter. Today, I let my workers handle the orders. They are more than capable. Instead, I walk through the marketplace watching the ripples of what I helped build. 2 years ago, I had nothing. Now, I have built something that cannot be taken away. Not by an alpha. Not by a tribe. Not by anyone but me. You're up early. I don't startle at the voice. I knew he was there before he spoke. Cyrus stands a few steps behind me, arms crossed, his gaze sweeping over the marketplace as if he, too, is taking in the change. I glance at him the way he stands. Not in front of me, not behind, but beside. Always beside. It's hard to sleep when there's still work to do, I say. You always say that. There's no criticism in his voice, just quiet amusement. I huff, shaking my head, because it's true. Cyrus watches me for a moment. Then, as if it is the most natural thing in the world, he steps in stride with me. He does not reach for me, does not press closer than necessary, because he knows I do not belong to him. And because of that, I choose him. I exhale, slow and steady. Come on, I say, nodding toward my stall. I have something new for you to try. Cyrus hums, tilting his head. Is it finally worth my time? I smirk. You tell me. Side by side, we walk forward. And this time, I am not walking toward someone else's future. This one is mine. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next video. See you again soon.